So Inside Out 2 has given us Pixar's take on anxiety. They've once again made cute and lovable characters out of our emotions and packaged them up into 96 minutes of family-friendly animated fun. But what did Inside Out 2 get right and wrong about its portrayal of anxiety? Let's find out. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Tim Box. I'm a mind coach and anxiety therapist. And for more than a decade now, I've been helping people manage and overcome all sorts of anxiety related issues. And I finally got round to seeing Inside Out 2. Now, you might think as an anxiety therapist, I'd be there at the very first showing on day one. And you know what? Maybe I should have been, especially as I have an unlimited membership at my local cinema. What can I say? Thursday night is date night for me and my wife, and we like the taste of popcorn. But for various reasons, the main one being we were away on holiday at the time the movie was released, I've only now, about 3 weeks later, actually got round to seeing it. The first thing to say is that I'm a big fan of Pixar movies anyway, and I really like the first Inside Out. However, when I heard that the sequel was going to heavily feature anxiety, well, let's just say I had my concerns. As regular viewers of my channel will know, I tend to view anxiety slightly differently to the standard script that we get told about anxiety disorders, mental illnesses, and all the other horrible effects of pathologizing our emotional responses. So I think I was kind of expecting to actually hate this film. I went in feeling noticeably tense, and I was kind of telling myself just to switch off the therapist part of my mind for an hour or two and just enjoy some family-friendly Pixar goodness. Well, it turns out I needn't have worried, because I really like the way Pixar portrayed anxiety in this movie. In fact, I pretty much agreed with nearly everything. So in this video, I'm going to break down the main things I think the writers of Inside Out 2 got spot on about anxiety. And just because nothing is ever going to be perfect, I'm also going to talk about the one big thing I think they got wrong. Perhaps most importantly, I'm going to talk about what I think we can potentially learn from it when it comes to dealing with our own anxiety. So let's get into it. Oh, and I should say before we go any further, if you haven't seen the film yet, consider this your spoiler warning for certain elements of the story. Oh my God, I've always wanted to say that at the start of one of my videos. So let's start with the good stuff. And top of the list of the good stuff is the very basis of the film. We are dealing with emotions. So often these days we think about anxiety purely in terms of this idea that it's a disorder, an ongoing condition, or some type of illness. It's really easy to forget that anxiety is simply one of our many emotions. The very premise of Inside Out, the idea that we're witnessing a behind-the-scenes look at how our emotions steer us through life, reminds us that anxiety is one of those emotions. We're not looking at the growth of a disorder or the development of an illness. We're just seeing the natural evolution of our protagonist Riley's emotions as she enters puberty. Yes, our emotions can run riot and get out of hand, especially if we're dealing with what are perceived to be overwhelming challenges. But the story never at any point suggests we're dealing with anything other than completely relatable, natural emotional responses. It warms my heart that kids will watch this film and get to see that feeling highly anxious about life's challenges doesn't mean we're ill. It means we're human. Whilst for a large part of Inside Out, anxiety plays the part of the antagonist, at no point is it suggested that anxiety is trying to do Riley harm. If you watch the film closely, even when anxiety is at odds with joy or any of the other emotions, she isn't being aggressive or suggesting she wants to make Riley unhappy. There's no evil villain moment in this film. In fact, the times when anxiety takes the most severe actions are when she feels Riley's happiness is threatened. We understand at all times that anxiety is actually trying to help, just like in real life. Because even when it feels like our emotions are working against us, or there's a part of our mind that's turned on us, this is in fact our own concerns attempting to create a kind of protective barrier around our actions. Yes, it can feel like our mind is working against us, and if it were, then it would be natural to conclude that a part of us must be broken in some way. But when we understand that all the negative thoughts and feelings are driven by an attempt to protect us and our journey towards happiness, then it's much easier to accept that there's nothing unhealthy going on. In this film, anxiety is presented as that rarest of things, an antagonist whose motivations we can completely relate to. Inside Out has always done a great job of illustrating the value of all of our emotions. In the first film, a large part of the story was driven by the quest to understand what purpose sadness serves in helping us. Discovering that purpose is one of the big payoffs of that story. In Inside Out 2, anxiety only causes havoc when it's the only emotion being utilised. By the end of the film, when harmony is restored and all emotions are playing their part in equal measure, we see the true value of anxiety as part of the team. Too often in our life, when anxiety has become a large concern, we start to do this thing of trying to eradicate it completely. But of course, that would leave us one emotion short of the full set, and that really would be a disorder. Every emotion plays its part, and every emotion is essential to us in our journey. I thought Pixar did a great job in helping us understand anxiety's role and illustrating by the end of the movie that this is not part of us that we want to get rid of, it's a part we should value and appreciate. The final scene when anxiety points out that Riley has a test coming up and helping contribute to the decision to do some studying is a perfect example of anxiety's day-to-day function in helping us. At one point in the story, the character Anxiety goes into full-on anxiety attack mode, and Riley experiences all the associated sensations. Her heart starts racing, she begins to hyperventilate, and even though she's sitting perfectly still, there's chaos in the control room as Anxiety moves at lightning speed over the control panel, whilst the other emotions are unable to interrupt or stop her. Like all panic or anxiety attacks, this very quickly passes, but when it's happening, we notice that Anxiety isn't actually attacking. She's effectively doing all she can to try and save the situation. In fact, it's only Anxiety's overactivity that's causing the problem. This once again shows that Anxiety is not being portrayed as malevolent, but there's also a more important point made as a byproduct of this scene, and that's that at no point is it suggested that there's anything wrong with Riley. She's always portrayed as a young girl with healthy human emotions. Experiencing an anxiety attack doesn't cause her to be labelled as ill or dysfunctional. The story doesn't move forward with her being taken to a psychiatrist or a doctor. Even in the midst of all of her struggles, she's only ever portrayed as a bright young girl with all the usual concerns of adolescence. This for me might be the most important thing that Pixar got right, and continue to get right with the Inside Out films. Our emotional responses are not indicators of illness. Now, this point comes with a bit of a caveat. At the end of the film, Riley chooses not to share everything about the trip with her parents, and I wonder if her keeping the way she feels bottled up might be a theme explored in the inevitable third film. Are we yet to see Riley get labelled as having emotional issues further down the line? So as I said at the start of the video, whilst 99% of the way Anxiety was portrayed in Inside Out 2 was overwhelmingly positive, there was one part where I think they might have got it wrong. That's the moment when Anxiety is introduced, and she describes herself pretty much as simply a different type of fear. Anxiety says that in the same way fear's job is to protect Riley from what she can see, Anxiety's job is to protect her from what she can't see. Now, I get why people make this mistake about anxiety. More often than not, we only start talking about anxiety when we feel it to such a degree that it's causing visceral sensations. However, I think to describe it as a different type of fear is to run the risk of confusing the two emotions. Anxiety's job is actually to tell us about whatever the most important thing to focus on is right now. So that scene at the end of the film that we've already spoken about, where Anxiety reminds Joy that Riley has a test coming up and we should study. That's a perfect example of what anxiety actually does on a daily basis. In that situation, there's no fear involved, it's just the next most important thing to focus on. Anxiety only really becomes visceral when it triggers fear, when the thing we feel is important is also perceived to contain some level of potential threat. So in reality, the panic attack scene probably should have seen fear at the control panel, not anxiety, or possibly a mixture of the two. Now, this might seem like a niggling point, but it can be important for us to realise that the physical sensations like racing heart and shortness of breath are not anxiety, they're fear. They're the fight or flight response kicking in. This hopefully helps us to realise that this is not a malfunction. The physical sensations are a healthy response to perceived threat. But all in all, that's the only thing that bugged me about Pixar's portrayal of anxiety, and I think that's pretty good going. The Inside Out films go such a long way to helping kids and adults alike understand our emotions and feel slightly less concerned about how we think, feel and behave. So maybe that's why I'm a big fan of them. But hey, have you seen the film? If so, did you like the way the emotions were portrayed? Do you agree with my thoughts about anxiety? Let me know in the comments. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then please let the algorithm know by clicking the like button and sharing it to help others. Also, consider subscribing for more content just like this one. I'm Tim Box. Always remember to be kind to your mind, and I'll see you next time.